J-Math.
Welcome to a second practice test for the grade 11 term 1 tests, normally about equations, exponents, and a little bit of trig. Please download the test, try it yourself, and then we can go through the memo together. Let's look at question 1. So we start with a trinomial. We want to get all the terms on the left, so I can do the bracket. So x squared minus x minus 42 equals 0. Now I want to subtract factors, and then the answer should be a 1. So I know that can only be 7 and 6. So x minus 7, x plus 6, and therefore x equals 7, or x equals minus 6. Okay, 3 marks, mark for your brackets, and then 1 for each answer. Question 1.2. So I can immediately see that leave your answer in simplest third form, or the other version in a decimal form. So that just means I'm straight away going to use the formula. So it isn't standard form. I can see A is 5, B is minus 9, and then C is negative 3. So I'm going to say x is equal to, just do my fraction. I know it's over 2a, and then minus b, which is already a minus, and then plus minus the square root of b squared. Please remember your brackets, otherwise it's wrong. And then minus 4a, and then c. And then in simplest third form, I can just say this is going to be over 10, and it's going to be 9 plus minus the square root of 141. I can't do anything more unless they ask me to go to decimals. So for that, I would get my marks. And I think you would get your marks for subbing incorrectly. For then simplifying this, it would be 2 marks. 1.3 is an equation with a surd. So first step, get this root alone. So x minus 2 is equal to x minus 4. Now I'm going to square both sides. So squared, put a bracket, and then squared. This just changes to x minus 2. So the root and the square just cancels. On the other side, remember there's now 2 brackets. So I am going to FOIL. So then x squared minus 4x, and then plus 16. Now I want all the terms on the right. So x squared, and then I have minus 4x minus another 1x, so minus 9x, and that gives me a plus 18 on the other side. Now I can just break it up into 2 brackets, and I can see this is going to be x and x, and then minus 6 minus 3. Okay, I just ran out of space, so I can now say, therefore, x is equal to 6, or x is equal to 3. Now remember, I need to test to see if my answers are correct. And I do that by just subbing in. Okay, guys, so just to save time, I am just going to sub in the 3. You must please sub in both and then see if your answer is correct. So if I sub in a 3, that's 1 plus 4, and that's definitely not equal to 3. So in my list, I can then just cross out the equal with the 3 and just underline or make clear that I know the answer is only 6. I can do a not applicable there if you want. So they just need to be certain which one you chose and which one you discarded. Where do I get my 6 marks? I would get a mark for moving the 4 over and then for squaring both sides. Then I'm going to get a mark for the trinomial, then a mark for each answer, and then for cancelling the one answer. So that's my 6 marks for this question. 1.4, inequalities. Once again, I want everything on the same side, so you can choose where you want to take it. Let's, for this sum, take everything to the left. So I'm going to have a minus x squared minus 9x minus 8 smaller than 0. Okay, you can draw your parabola from there and then get your brackets, but I would always make sure that I'm working with a positive x squared. So I'm just dividing everything by minus, and that would then become plus 9x plus 8, and then super important, this would flip the sign because I divided by a minus. Now I can see this will just be x plus 8, x plus 1, and then greater than 0. Now I know my critical values would then be minus 8 or minus 1. What that means is if I draw a happy face, those are the two x-intercepts. So minus 8, minus 1. This question had a bigger than 0 the moment I put stuff in brackets. So it is going to be smaller than the smallest or bigger than the biggest with a or in the middle. So to get my final marks, I can say, okay, so x is smaller than minus 8 or x is greater than minus 1. And for that, I will get full marks. So once again, you would get a mark for simplest form and getting your trinomial correct. So it would be there. Then for the brackets, and then for the minus 8 and minus 1, you would get 1 mark. And then for the format of the question, you would get the next mark. So many times you can be right with your critical values, but if the next step is wrong, you will not get full marks. Question 1.5, I want x alone. So I am going to multiply the exponent with the reciprocal. Okay, so let's just see how would that look. So I'm going to multiply by the value that will make this a positive 1. So I'm flipping the exponent and putting a minus there. But what I do to the left, I must do to the right. And then this would just be an x. This would be 2 to the power 4 times minus 3 over 4 in the exponent. The 4's would cancel out. So 2 to the power minus 3, and x equals 1 over 8, my calculator would say. Now, where do I get the 3 marks? Reciprocal, and then I'm showing them that you know that 16 is 2 to the power 4, and then for your final answer. Okay, guys, so I can do this in one step in the calculator. I will not get full marks if I don't show them exactly what I did. Question 1.6. So this is the sum where you can choose to go K method or just do it normally. I am going to show you K method again because that's the one that most people would take with this question. Okay, so I don't like the negative exponent, so I'm going to say this is 5 to the power x plus 25 over 5x. Now the minus is gone, so that helps me. I'm just going to bring this 26 to the left. Now I can say let k equal the thing that repeats, so let k equal 5 to the power x. So that would make this a k, there would be a k, and then plus 25 over k minus 26 equals 0. Okay, that looks horrible, so I am going to multiply by the LCD. Just going to write up there now. So this would be k squared minus 26k plus 25 equal 0. If I do the trinomial there, k minus 25 and then k minus 1. If I add them, I get to 26 again, so I know I am right. Therefore, k equals 25 or k equals 1. The question was not to solve for k, so I need to replace the k's with 5 to the power x again. Okay, both of them. And then this is 5 squared. And remember, 1 can be written as anything to the power 0. I want this to be a 5, so my bases are the same. And that's why I'm writing 5 to the power 0. Final answer, x equals 2, or then x equals 0. Okay, 6 marks, everybody. So for doing k, or then the other method, you will get a mark there. But the mark is basically for dropping this 5x to the bottom. They don't care which method you use, as long as you get to a trinomial. So the next mark would be for the trinomial, and then there's 2 marks for getting the actual answers for x, and then they would just give a random other mark if everything was correct. So let's say the other mark would be there for replacing it with k, or then if you didn't want to, for just writing it in a legible way with 5 to the power x in the place of k. 2.1, we're over to exponents, and I can see this is the one where there is a plus or a minus between the terms. That means I'm going to look for a common factor after I gave each exponent its own base. So the first step would be to then just say, okay, so this stays 5 times 5 to the power n minus 5 to the power n 5 squared. At the bottom, I am just also giving that plus 2 a base of 5. Now I'm just going to take out the common factor of 5 to the power n. What's left is 5 minus 5 squared at the top. At the bottom, I'm just rewriting. And then in the next step, I can cancel out the 5 to the power n's and then just type it in my calculator. Final answer is going to be 2 over 5. Let's see where you would get your 4 marks. So 1 mark for giving that plus 2 its own base, then for taking out a common factor, for cancelling out the common factor, and then for your final answer, you would get the last mark. Okay, question 2.2. So this is again the massive exponent fraction, but this time I do not see any pluses or minuses between the terms. So what's going to happen there is I'm going to shift fact each base, then simplify, and then make a big base of all the prime numbers, and then I'm going to bring all the exponents to the right place. So a lot of steps. Let's start. First step, shift fact of 45 would just tell me that is 9 times 5, so I'm just going to say it's 5 times 3 squared. The x minus 3 is still there. Then there's a 3. Then shift factor of 75 would tell me it is 3 times 5 squared. Okay, exponent stays the same. And then at the bottom, I would then also just shift fact each one. So 5 squared minus x, and then 3 times 5, x plus 2. Okay, now's the part where I need to simplify. So I am going to multiply each outside exponent with every base on the inside of the bracket. So this would become 5x minus 3, and then 2x minus 6. Then there's just the 3 to the power 1 randomly, then 3 to the power 4 minus x, then 5 to the power 8 minus 2x. I hope I didn't miss anything. Please check very closely when you're doing such big sums. At the bottom, 5 to the power minus 2x, 3 to the power x plus 2, and then 5 to the power x plus 2. Now I can make a big 3 and a big 5. I am just going to do it here on the side. So 3 to the power, and I'm just going to check. I am going to add the 2x minus 6 plus 1 plus 4 minus x, and then at the bottom, I can say there's a minus x minus 2. Okay, guys, now you would have much more space than I would, so I'm just going to do the 5 there, but just remember it's actually on the side next to that minus 2. But in this case, 5 to the power x minus 3, and then plus 8 minus 2x. At the bottom, there is a minus 2x, so that would become minus 2x, which is a plus, and then minus x minus 2. Okay, let's simplify. So I know there's going to be a 3. Let's look at the x's. 2x minus x just cancels out. And then the numbers would be minus 6 plus 1 plus 4. So that gives me minus 1. And then there's a minus 2 at the end. So there's a minus 3. Now the 5s, there's an x, minus 2x plus 2x minus x. X's cancelled out. Then minus 3 plus 8 is 5. And then 5 minus the very 2 at the end would be 3. So 5 to the power 3. Final answer would then be 125 over 27. Okay, now This looks like a much bigger sum than the previous one, and it's also just 4 marks. So you get a mark for prime factorizing, so shift fact, then for simplifying all the brackets, then for the 3 being correct and the 5 being correct. That's how you get 4 marks, or full marks for this question. Question 2.3. So I am just going to FOIL. If I look at the firsts, it's going to be root 5, root 5. If I look at the outers, it's going to be plus root 5, root 7. The inners will be minus root 5, root 7. And then the lasts would be minus root 7, root 7. Now I can just check, and the middle two terms are actually the same, but one is a plus and one is a minus, so they become 0. What's left is then just 5 minus 7, and the answer is minus 2. Where would you get your 3 marks for actually doing your FOIL correctly, and then for getting the 5 and getting the 7? Question 3, we're getting to trig. So this is the type of sum where you can see they are telling you with a diagram, okay, and then without a calculator. If you see those words, you know you are going to do a little cast diagram, and then you are probably going to draw a triangle somewhere to help you with this question. Let's go through all the steps and see how we would figure this out. First step is I want cos theta alone. So guys, I'm not even looking at question 1. I am just looking at the setup for my triangle. So I'm going to start with getting cos theta alone. The 5 is there. I'm dividing by minus 13. That is good enough. I am just going to move the minus to the top. So now I need to figure out where would this be on a cast diagram. So if I just draw a quick cast diagram, I know cos is negative, and cos is negative in 2 and 3. And then I'm looking at that piece of info up there. That tells me I'm only allowed to work in the bottom quadrants. So I am going to draw my triangle in tans quadrant. Okay, butterflies, not diamonds. So I'm drawing away from the x-axis and then up again. That is a theta. And now I can say it is cos is 5 over 13. So cos is adjacent over hypotenuse, and the adjacent would then be minus 5. The hypotenuse would be 13. Now I need to Pythagoras to get the opposite, or the y. So I'm just going to say y squared is equal to 13 squared minus minus 5 squared. Now guys, this would just give me the square root of 144, remember your plus minus, and therefore y is equal to 12. Now it's plus or minus 12, and if I look at my sketch, it's going down. So this must be minus 12. Okay, now I can answer the question. So I'm going to write it as 13 over 1 times, and then sine. So sine is opposite over hypotenuse. That is going to be minus 12 over 13. Then minus, I'm going to do 5 over 1, and then times tan, which is opposite over adjacent, so minus 12 over minus 5. You can type this in your calculator, or you can just say the 13s cancels, the 5s cancel, these minuses also cancel, and now I just need to check what's left over. There's a minus 12, and then there is a minus 12. So final answer is minus 24. Where would I get my marks? So this is only 4 marks, sadly, so I would get a mark for my quadrants, my Pythagoras, subbing in, and then the final answer. 3.2 is a reduction sum. So guys, that's where you draw your cast diagram and you fill in as much as you can remember. So C-A-S-T, and then I can say this is just theta. In this case, this is x, 180 minus x, 180 plus x, and then the last one, 360 minus x, or just minus x. Okay, now I can start. So if I look at the first one, sine of x minus 180. Now, I just drew the cast diagram, and I don't see a x minus 180. So to fix that, I can add a 360 at any time, and that would then make the sum x plus 180. And x plus 180 is the third quadrant. So to answer this question, I can say sine in the third quadrant would be minus sine x. This was all squared. Okay, with the next one, 540 minus, so I can just subtract 360, and that would make it 180 minus x. 180 minus x is the second quadrant, and tan is negative in the second quadrant. Now, tan 180 minus, once again, it is just the second quadrant, so I can just say this is minus tan x. Then the one there in the middle, I can just add 360, and I can add it again if I want to, but that is going to be the fourth quadrant. Because if I just plus 360 there, it just cancels the other one, and then it's just minus x, and we know that's the fourth quadrant. Now remember, cos in the fourth quadrant is just positive, so I'm just going to write cos x. But sine in the fourth quadrant is negative, so that's going to be minus sine x for that one. Okay, guys, now I can see if I can cancel something, and the tan cancels the tan, and the sine cancels one of the squares. So now I can just check, okay, how many minuses do I have? And I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So remember, this one counts as a double because it was in a bracket squared. So because there are 5 minuses, the answer is going to be negative, and it's actually just sine x over cos x. And in grade 11, we teach you that this would be tan x. That is the final answer. Okay, so where do I get 6 marks? Every single one of these counter mark. So just see if you knew how to reduce them, and then your final answer. The last question we're going to look at for this practice paper would then be the identity. I need to choose a side, and the left-hand side looks a little bit more complicated. And in these questions, I always choose the more complicated one. So I'm telling them I am starting with the left-hand side. Now, we learned that tan is equal to sine over cos. So I can immediately change that, sine theta over cos theta. But please remember, both of them are squared because tan was squared initially. That is then just plus 1. Okay, I am adding fractions, and I can't add fractions if the denominators are not the same. So I can rewrite this 1 as cos squared plus cos squared, because then the denominators are the same. And now your brain must immediately tell you there's an identity like this. So let me just write out the extra step. You can skip this step if you see where this is going. Okay, cos squared theta. And the identity says that sine squared plus cos squared is equal to 1. So that's why I can just write that. And then this would be exactly equal to the right-hand side. Let's see where you would get your 4 marks. 4 marks, 1 mark for tan, 1 mark for doing the LCD, and then for getting the answer and saying it is equal to right-hand side. Okay, guys, that was the practice test, both of them for grade 11, term 1. So this was just for chapter 1 and 2, and then for trig. Please practice this. Go back to other videos if you get stuck somewhere. But don't waste your time. Keep on practicing. It's going to make sense, and it's extremely important, especially for grade 12, these questions.
If this video helped you, please like and subscribe.
JJ Math.